January 13th Select Board meeting to order. Ryan, would you lead us in the pledge? Sure.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business will be to approve the minutes of the December 3rd, 2019 work session minutes.
I move we accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 The December 9th, 2019 regular meeting minutes.
Move that we accept the minutes as written.
I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I abstain.
The December 16th, 2019 budget work session minutes. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I move that we accept those minutes as written.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. The January 6th, 2020 budget work session minutes.
Move that we accept the minutes.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
The January 6th, 2020 non-public meeting minutes have been sealed. The Select Board will meet on the following dates. Budget finalization work session Tuesday, January 21st, 2020. Regular meetings 6 p.m. Monday, January 27th, 2020, and Monday, February the 10th, 2020. The first budget public hearing, Monday, January 27th, 2020, and the second budget public hearing, if needed, and read petition warrant articles, Thursday, February the 6th. Work sessions prior to the regular meeting will start at 5 p.m. Candidate night. Meet the candidates for a Q&A session Tuesday, February the 18th, 2020 at 6 p.m. And that will be held at the high school
At the auditorium.
in the auditorium. The town offices will be closed Monday, January 20th, 2020 in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. All of the above meetings will be held in the town hall unless otherwise posted. I have a letter from Chief Morrison. Dear Bonnie, thank you for committing 13 years of your life to the Plymouth Fire Rescue. As we have discussed, you have had an integral part in giving this position the stature that it enjoys today. We will also miss your friendship, your upbeat personality, and your professionalism. As the administrative assistant, you were often the first face the public saw. You were a wonderful ambassador for the Plymouth Fire Rescue, and we are grateful. We trust that you will be enjoying your newfound downtime, traveling, and spending time with family and friends. Please know that you are always welcome back to the firehouse anytime. Don't be a stranger. We say that on behalf of the Select Board, thank you to Bonnie for her years and her dedicated service. We have reappointments of Kevin Malm to the Parks and Recreation Commission. I am writing to apply for reappointment to the Plymouth Parks and Recreation Board. I've served on the commission since 2008, serving on the Facilities Committee, focusing primarily on long-term planning for the development of Fox Pond Park and Riverfront Park. I've also worked at all of the Parks and Recreation Family Fun Festival, as well as our sponsored summer concerts on the Common. I believe that we have done some fine work on the board and am very proud of the programs and accomplishments of the department. Thank you for your consideration, and I look forward to my continued service to the town of Plymouth. Do I have a motion?
I move we reappoint Kevin Malm for the Parks and Recreation Commission.
I second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Also have another reappointment of Alan Merrifield. I am ready to express my desire to be reappointed to the Plymouth Parks and Recreation Commission. I have been an active member on the commission over the past 12 years and have organized and headed many events that the Park and Rec Department has been able to offer to the community. I have 2 daughters who are also involved with helping Park and Rec, offerings and plan to continue our involvement in the schools and the Park and Rec Department in the future. I've been able to build a strong relationship with Larry Gibson, Lisa Ash, and the other Park and Recreation Commission members. Again, I am writing to be officially reappointed to the Plymouth Parks and Rec Commission for another term. Do I have a motion?
I move we reappoint Alan Merrifield to the Parks and Recreation Commission.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Joe? Yep. You wanna,
Oh, we've got one
Yeah,
more
we got,
appointment.
yeah,
oh,
this is a very
Really?
important one. Yeah.
Yeah,
I got Alan Merrifield.
There you go.
the Lamoureux.
That wasn't on there, okay. Sorry, Joe. I am writing to express interest in serving on the Plymouth Planning Board. I have lived in the town of Plymouth since 2014, first as a resident on Cumming Hill and now as a resident of Hilltop Drive. Prior to living in Plymouth, I had lived in the town of Bradford, New Hampshire from 2001 to 2014. As a resident of Bradford, I served first as an alternate to the Planning Board in 2004, then as elected member in 2005 through 13. I served as the chair on the Planning Board from 2007 to 2012. During my tenure on the Planning Board, we had revised subdivision regulations, site plan regulations, and the gravel pit regulations, and have proposed several changes to the town zoning ordinance. It has come to my attention that an opportunity exists to serve on the Planning Board. As a resident of Plymouth, it is my desire to serve in this capacity. I do realize that every town has its own character and that this character should provide guidance as changes considered. I'm happy to consider both the relevant New Hampshire state RSAs and the town's current master plan to guide the decisions that come before the board. I am aware of the commitments of serving on the planning board. I would be happy to serve on the Plymouth Planning Board if appointed. Thank you for your consideration of my request. Phil
Amaro.
Lamoureux. Okay?
I would make a motion to accept his application to be appointed to the planning board, and I appreciate his volunteerism, and I hope that maybe a couple other people would do that as well.
I second that.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did miss.
You don't have a master appointment form?
Hmm?
You have an original? Okay, you got that form.
Yeah, I do. Oh, I'm sorry. Joe?
Hello again.
Hey, Joe.
So I've got some purchase orders.
All right.
First one I got in front of me is for Pete's Tire Barn. So I have two vehicles that are in dire need of tires. One of the big trucks and one of my small trucks. And so it's broken down. The price of the tires and the mounts and dismounts, and it comes up to $5,472.36.
Good thing there were no big tires, huh?
Yeah, one of them is 6 big tires.
Yep.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
Do we have any discussion?
So the money is there in the budget for that, in that line item.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
I move we approve this purchase order for Pete's Tire Barn in the amount of $5,472.36.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
So is this the most price-worthy place to obtain tires, or we just call around, or is this like the best?
We do, and so far they've treated us the best, and
Okay.
so, yes,
It's good enough
price
for me.
around.
Great.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Go ahead, Joe.
So the second one I have for Jeremy Hiltz Excavating. He just opened a new sand pit, which is just down the road from Ambrose, where we get our sand now. And so basically what I'm doing here is I have another vendor. I'd just rather not say it over the public, but we have another vendor that we get sand from, and it's a lot more money because we have to travel further.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have a purchase order that's sitting there, which means we don't have to use it. But because Jeremy Hiltz is just like a quarter-mile difference from where Ambrose is, and his prices are a lot lower, I'd like to open an account so that if we have issues or Ambrose shuts down, that we can haul from this pit, which is a lot closer and cheaper. So this amount is the same amount as my other vendor, which I'm just gonna put on hold. There's nothing locking us in.
Okay, so
It's
you're
just
going to
there as-
use this vendor as primary.
No, as a secondary to Ambrose, but it's, it'll save us a lot of money if that comes into play. So there's a good chance we won't even have to use this. It's just there as a backup.
All right. Any
So the
discussion?
backup that you currently use is a lot farther away, is you're
Correct.
saying? Okay. So you're just switching the backup, basically?
Correct.
Yeah.
We have a motion?
I move that we accept the purchase order for Jeremy Hiltz Excavating for winter sand, up to the $10,000 amount.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the last one is KV Partners. He does our engineering, and I've got him scheduled to do the engineering on Pleasant Street. So we're scheduled to possibly start Russell Street, and it has to continue up Pleasant Street. And my failures are just as bad on Pleasant. So I have money in the budget for him to do this engineering, and I'd like to get ahead of it so that when the time comes, that we'll be ready if we decide to move forward and do Pleasant Street.
All right. Any discussion?
When you redo Pleasant Street, that will be including the sidewalks, yes?
Yes, this would just from Langdon Street to Russell.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
It's the worst. That had been brought up in a previous meeting, so I just wanted to confirm that. Thanks.
Do I have a motion?
I move that we accept the purchase order for KV Partners LLC for design for the Pleasant Street project up to $22,000.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay,
Thanks, Joe.
thank you.
Never late.
Do you have this?
Mm-hmm. In accordance with New Hampshire RSA 33, the Town of Plymouth Board of Selectmen welcomes all present for this first of two public hearings as outlined in the brochure provided for the authorization of a $2,500,000 bond. For the purpose of work to be completed to public facilities and roadways for construction, reconstruction, alteration, and enlargement of the same, for other public works or improvement of a permanent nature, for the purchase of departmental equipment of a lasting character. This bond shall not include funds to provide for the payment of expenses for current maintenance and operation except as otherwise specifically provided by law. The first public hearing will be held during the regular Select Board meeting on Monday, the 27th.
It's on the budget.
On the budget.
Oh, yes. All right.
We're on the bond right now. We're on the bond right now.
Yep, all right. Okay. So I will open the public hearing at 6:20. Do I hear anybody speak in favor of this bond?
Want to have the department head speak?
Would the department heads from the town like to speak to this proposal?
Good evening.
Good evening, Tom.
For the fire department's part of the bond, we're looking to replace a 10-year-old ambulance at a cost of $250,000. That ambulance is becoming increasingly unreliable, as you can imagine, after 10 years. It broke down 3 times last year and caught fire on one emergency scene. And we also spent about $10,000 in maintenance on that vehicle last year. So that's our plan. I think it's time, and in the interest of you know, that's not the kind of service that we want to provide, where we have a vehicle that's that unreliable, so. Open to any questions, if anybody has any about that?
We have money, how much money do we have in the capital reserve for that ambulance right now?
I want to say 100-ish?
2040.
That, okay, that includes the next payment, or that's,
That's
That's-
this year's.
okay.
And what would the cost of a new ambulance be? What is
It's
it?
250,
250.
yeah. So one of the theories with this bond is that we're playing catch-up on a CIP that was inadequate. So that money, correct me if I'm wrong, would go towards the next replacement. We used to do this on an 8-year rotation, back when we were doing
Right.
1,000 calls a year.
We're going to use we're going to use the 140 as an offset on this.
Okay, on this time.
And start saving it for future.
Okay, I stand corrected. Any other questions on that?
And we've also had new equipment for 10,000, an idea of what that equipment is.
Yes, that's right, I'm sorry. The 10,000, there's 10,000 in there also for a third thermal imaging camera, so that every piece of apparatus will have a thermal imaging camera that allows us to see through the smoke. We currently have 2.
Forgive me if everybody can hear me. I have a really bad cold I'm dealing with right now. So the police department part of it, the biggest item there is a new radio system, our dispatch center. That infrastructure hasn't been replaced in a while, and currently it's non-supported. So if it were to fail, then we would have to replace that anyway, and there's no fixing that equipment is so old. We're talking in the neighborhood of 15 years old, and it's all computer equipment. I'm sure nobody in their home has 15-year-old computers, but that's what we're dealing with now. And that's to fix that radio system. Also, the other big item, that's to fix that infrastructure and the parking meter infrastructure. We've talked about it, Frank. We've been in parking committee meetings, and Mike, trying to get some updated meters and whatnot, and that would help me out tremendously with that. And also, our phone system replacement right now is not supported. It is also so old that if it were to fail, we would have to replace the whole thing, and that's in the neighborhood of $20,000 itself. And the PD roof, knock on wood, this year it's not leaking. Last year we had a couple leaks in it, and myself and a couple officers actually had to get up and shovel it off because it was, I got a quote for $11,000 to shovel off the roof. Instead, we chose to get up there and do it ourselves, which we did. So I'm hoping that the $60,000 we can actually put a pitched roof on the PD with a metal roof on top of that. I don't know, I have some architectural questions about that to see whether it would support it or not. If not, then we would just go with resealing the roof one more time, because if you don't know, the PD roof is actually flat. So. Anybody else have any questions on that? Did I cover everything? Did anybody hear me okay? I apologize for that.
Again, cost on the radio to replace the radio system?
It's right around the $350,000. That's the repeater. That's for the whole dispatch center. We dispatch for 10 different towns right now, including ourselves.
Right.
Thank you.
I have copies. I don't know if I have enough for everybody, but if you want to pass those around. I have Plymouth Parks Recreation. We have 5 areas that we need some improvement. At Riverfront Park, we need some type of a shade tent for the stage area, and I need to do some electrical upgrades down at that facility. Fox Pond Park, I need to regrade the surface of the ice rink. The biggest problem I have at Fox Park right now is the inlet outlets at the pond. We're hoping to put that out to bid very shortly. It needs a lot of repair. I have a pipe that totally is not functioning right now. It has rusted out, and the water is just running underneath the pipe and washing out the bank there. So shelter repairs, some roofing, some shingles, and playground equipment update. All the playground equipment we have there now, the warranties are gone, so I need to upgrade some playground equipment. The town common, I need to upgrade both electrical panels on the north and south end of the common. I need to repair the erosion around the gazebo, and I need to fix the water fountains. I need some plumbing repairs there. Office, I'm looking at a new phone system, and in general maintenance equipment, I'm looking for a new X-Mark mower. And the total that we're requesting is $80,000. And again, I don't know if, again, it's just a list that we put together as close as possible on the numbers. And I don't know if anybody, again, we pass this out if anybody has any questions at this time. Okay, thank you very much.
So,
So for highway, we're looking to get a new 550 compatible. We haven't decided what brand, but so we've had a police cruiser and a Ford Ranger that have both failed and put aside because we stopped spending money on trying to fix them because they're not worth it anymore. And so our oldest 1-ton is not in very good shape, so we're going to try to just use that for coal patch and some of the other needs we have, and we're going to try to purchase another dump truck for plowing with a plow and a wing. And then we're going to pay off our sidewalk tractor that we have, our new tractor, which is phenomenal. It's been a lifesaver for us. And then a bucket loader. We have an 82 Fiat that we use a lot, like winter services and summer services in the pit. And we just can't get parts for it anymore, and it's not feasible to keep putting money into it, so we're going to replace that. And then we keep renting wood chippers, and it's the money that we spent to keep renting is not worth it. We're going to try to buy a new one for $55,000, which will last us 20-25 years, and it will pay for itself within the first 4 years. And then last but not least, we have a crushed gravel line. I'm adding money to that, so I have some in capital reserve, so I'm hoping as of July 1 we can crush some new gravel. And then we have some roads projected to work on. Russell Street, a major overhaul of drainage, which takes us up through the intersection of Pleasant Street. So that whole section over there has failed really bad, and it's in dire need of being fixed. So this is a perfect opportunity to spend this money and get the job done right. And if there's money left over, we have a couple of roads put in order here to pave if there's money left over. Any questions? Okay.
Thanks, John.
Good evening.
Evening, Jesse.
So my part of the bond, I'm asking for $275,000, $20,000 of it for building repairs. I've got some concrete walls that need to be fixed, along with a wall that's actually rotting from the inside. Repaving of the loading dock. It was initially paved with asphalt, and with our machinery, we're just tearing up that asphalt. We're actually down to dirt in some of the spots, so I'm requesting $15,000 to repave it with concrete. New skid steer. My skid steers are quite old. They're definitely past their longevity. We keep on throwing money at it to keep up with the operations. We're just bleeding money right now. So to get a new skid steer with this bond money would help us a lot. And then a couple years later, we'll purchase another skid steer with the CIP. A glass crusher. So $75,000 for the glass crusher. As of right now, we are crushing the glass with our skid steers, which is damaging our skid steers in a sense. Our tires are being chewed up. They are hard rubber tires, but still, they're being chewed up. The man hours that we put into crushing glass it adds up quite a bit. Now, if we buy a piece of machinery that is specifically built to crush glass, yes, there's a upfront cost to it right now, but in the long run, we're saving so much more money by not using the correct equipment. So trying to get our skid steers away from it is what I plan on. And the result of that is that the glass, it will be broken down to spec, so that way we can actually use it for road constructions, any type of drainage bedding. So, and the highway department can use it right off the bat if they really wanted to. Cost to remove the glass, repair drainage, and build a pad. So we have a stockpile of glass that is not crushed to specifications, so that way we can use it for projects. We need to get that out of there before Department of Environmental Services inspects us and says you are in violation of your permit and you need to get this out. So we're going to either have to spend money either way. But this $100,000 is not just getting rid of the glass, but it is also repairing the drainage that goes through the metal pile. We're not allowed to have any type of flowing water go through any metal piles. Then goes into building a pad, a concrete pad. That concrete pad, we can use that crushed glass as the base, as a sub base, and then put hard pack on top of it, and then put a concrete pad on top of it, so we can use it for my metal pile, and it'll shed that water away from the metal pile. So any questions?
So what's the total amount that you're asking for?
$270,000.
$270,000. There's money left for Joe.
Questions?
The crushed glass goes into the road now. None of it's recycled.
So, is glass recycled? Great question. Glass is recyclable. There's no market for it. It is actually cheaper to get sand and make new glass. So, now, can we put it in the roads? Yes, we can. We can put it as a sub base for roads.
Is there some other way to get rid of it that's less expensive than buying a glass crusher?
Is there a way? There is absolutely a way to get rid of it, but cheaper? No. There is not a cheaper way of getting rid of it. The town pays $64 a ton just to get rid of waste. I have well over 1,000 tons, and it just keeps on coming. Basically, it comes down to the consumer. Consumer stops buying glass, we won't have this problem. But that's not going to happen. We're always going to buy glass. Until the markets change, until glass recycling is popular again, it's on municipalities, local governments to figure this out.
What's the payback time frame for the glass?
Payback?
Spent $75,000. Will the highway department use said glass?
So me and Joe, we're going to talk about how we can use this glass. Yeah, Yeah, it's gonna save the town quite a bit of money on just having to do fill for roads. No, but if you're asking for a number, I do not have a number.
Going forward, what's your contribution to CIP to smooth the bumps in spending?
Smooth the bumps in spending.
Well,
Just in my department?
right, so I mean, are you putting money aside now for equipment for the future?
There's always been money put aside.
Just not enough?
Just not. No further questions?
Thank you. Jesse?
Shall I speak to the town hall from here?
All right.
So we're looking for $100,000 as part of the bond, and part of it is to update our lighting, because the lighting, it's pretty dark in here, but downstairs, the lighting that's in the ceiling is the ballast. A lot of the ballasts are broken, and so we can't even replace the bulbs in them. And we want to upgrade to the LED lights to make it more efficient and last longer. And we're just waiting for a quote for a price on that. But also, we're looking at a more efficient way to heat and cool the town hall. I don't know if people have been in here when it's either been way too hot or way too cold, but we have to have either one or the other. We can't have anything even keel. Downstairs, a lot of times the girls are very cold because of the draft that goes through the building, just because of the age of the building, lack of insulation. So there is some things that we need to work on in the town hall to bring it up to grade. And the Main Street, I'm looking down under miscellaneous, 73,000. Airport improvements, I think that's to take the trees down that are on the runway so that he has a more clear path. And the Main Street lighting is to replace some of those old poles and lights because they're pretty falling apart. You pretty much touch them and they're, So that's what we're looking for.
Okay, we will take public comments. Neil?
I'm Neil McIver. I was impressed with Larry's handout, which gave us a specific breakdown of how he intended to spend the money, and I wondered if all the other departments could provide the citizens with a handout.
Did you get one of these? That's what
okay.
these are.
I missed it.
Thank you for
Sorry.
asking.
Thank you.
Paul?
How long is this loan for?
It's a 10-year.
10-year loan?
10-year
Is it a
loan.
bond or is it a loan?
It's a bond. It's for 10 years, and part of that is because the life expectancy of equipment and roads is over 10 years, 15. So if we do pay it off in 10 years, we can start saving again for future. And we'll be able to hopefully get back on track, and keep everything up to even keel. That's what the hope is.
One more question. What effect will that have on the tax rate? Do you know?
If we don't get the bond, if they go with the requests that they made, it'll be $3 increase on the tax rate. If we do get the bond, it's 69 cents. And that's not including the development out on Tenny Mountain Highway, the Market Basket, and the Irving and Common Man. They haven't been picked up yet, so they haven't added the value to the tax base yet. So that will, yes, it will definitely lower the tax rate.
Okay, thank you.
Any other public comments?
How many other bonds do we have out right now?
We have one from 2016, I believe. It was a $2 million bond.
In the library.
Do we have one from the
Oh,
library?
we do have one from the library, yes.
How about the one from the high school? Does that affect?
That's not us, yeah, so.
Any other public comments?
Yeah, Frank Miller. Haven't done sufficient inventory of our main street, I come to a conclusion that our town is out of date, out of code, and very much incomplete for infrastructure. So I think we definitely need to consider that we need to see this bond go through. It's in our best interest, and there's so many issues that we have that if we continue ignoring them and push them down to the next year, the numbers are just going to be bigger.
Any other public comment?
I did have a question over the radio system. You said it's shared between 10 towns.
It's not shared, it's our equipment. It's
Oh,
our
okay.
dispatch center. Excuse me, I'll come up to the microphone so people can hear me.
Do they offset the cost of that?
They do, and I don't have that number. I don't know, Van, if you have that number. You know, I don't have that number right with me, but I could get that. But they do pay a portion of the dispatch center, each one of the towns.
Any other questions? Anyone from the select board have any comments?
Regarding the bond?
Hmm?
Regarding the bond.
Regarding the bond.
It's a great idea. And the rates are low, so.
And I would also say it's not something that we have taken lightly, and it's not just like a wish list that all of the departments said, I'm going to go through the JCPenney wish book and write everything down that I want. They have definitely picked exactly what they need in order to advance.
And I would like the public, I mean, we've had this situation before, and when Val Scarborough was here, we have not sufficiently funded our CIP, and that's something that we need to look at. We tried to, keep the tax dollars down, and the budget department met with all the various department heads, and these are some needs that were out there. We know about the roads and the equipment for highways. Some of the equipment that they're having to use right now is we're spending a lot of money on repairs. So, this is not something we take lightly, but with the rates and the ability to, with expansion of the tax base in the town, we feel this is a good time to get it done, get the money, get it locked in, and like I say, we do have it allocated. And these funds, if the bonds are approved, the funds will be used for these purposes and these purposes only. And, so seeing no more comment, I will close the public hearing at 6:45. Let's see, next on the agenda is Brian Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's interesting that we have the Riverside Landing Part 2 up here because this is very much related to the conservation lands. In order to proceed with building a legal pad along the road, there's a wetlands impact, and the state requires offsets for that impact. And that is areas of land set aside in conservation easement. So Mr. McGinley has already subdivided out a portion to the west of Riverside Landing, which is bordered to the east by Clay Brook. Clay Brook has also been identified as not a critical wildlife habitat, but one of interest, and it will protect that going forward in the future. The other parcel is of 31 acres, and it lies on the other side of the river, roughly directly behind the car wash in that area there. So what happens to those two parcels, they're essentially unbuildable at this point because they're already within the flood zone, if not the floodway. and they're extremely wet. So those will be taken off the development map forever. So the question comes to, what is to be done with the lands? Once they get to conservation easement, whether the town holds the easement, the Conservation Commission manages it, or if a third party done, but that is something that can be done in the future. It's all a matter of writing the deeds. But at this point, both the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission have recommended to the Board of Selectmen that they accept these properties. Can I answer any questions?
And do you propose that we do action at this meeting?
No,
show
I'm
our
sorry, I
intent,
should have
or-
amplified on
Yeah.
that. This would just be, once you receive the recommendations, then you'll have to hold 2 public hearings. And then with the specified dates and time gaps between them, in the not-too-distant future, I would imagine. But once the ball gets rolling, I think it all has to be accomplished within about a month. The other thing that maybe bears mentioning here is that no matter who owns the parcels, one of the long-term goals of the planning board would be to develop a riverside trail. And this will actually foster, not the trail that starts at the Gardens for Many and ends up at the Hannaford site, but from under the bridge and along the river. We've had a commitment from Mr. McGinley that he will ease a permanent access from this new property he's developing to enable people to walk along the bank at the edge of the compensation area. And, you know, this can all be written into whatever easement language there is, but essentially it's a no-build zone and not much else than that. So, you know, it can be used for recreation, walking, anything that doesn't require a permanent structure, probably outside of maybe a bench, but nothing in the way of buildings or sheds or anything like that.
And ultimately, I guess we did intend, or we'd like to shoot from the public gardens to Smith's Bridge. There's still some property issues, but
yes, they're being infilled as these parcels come up for development. I know that I also broached the subject with the Mountain Village Charter School, who acquired property around Sears. It's kind of funny, they're developed in rings around that. So to be the third one out with a component that lies along the riverbank itself. And they do teach, one of their methods is to have school in the wild, evidently. And they do a lot of ecological training and nature work. So it would fit in with their educational aspect as well. So of that stretch from the bridge to Smith Bridge, there are very, very few feet that haven't been committed, at least informally, to this project.
That's great.
Any other comments? Thoughts? Okay. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Actually, could I make one more comment? So regarding this project itself, and the fact that it's been continued for a second meeting already.
Yes.
And we can't act on it. We couldn't act on it at the last meeting because we had an issue with a number of members.
Correct.
And a quorum. So we intend to both fix that, but also with the addition of our new member, you know, we can actually vote on this now.
Right. The only reason we failed the quorum at the last meeting was that one of the members is a direct abutter to one of these conservation parcels, so she recused herself. So all the presentations have been made in at the first meeting. And this is a site plan review for the pad itself. I might as well go into it now. It'll be the same as with the other parts of Riverside Landing, where the pad is blessed to begin with, and then each occupation on that pad will undergo site plan review as well. So we're not just buying a pick and a poke here.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, next, Don Judd and the Water District.
John Jutton from Plymouth Water and Sewer. We're here this evening to share what we're about to begin is a 42-month capital improvement project, which will involve about $18 million worth of water and sewer upgrades. What I'd like to do is have our engineer provide you with an overview and give you some idea of where we're talking. The primary, while we're spending money all over the community, the primary impact area is going to be downtown. We've got major work to happen in both replacing water and sewer lines in the downtown. And so when he's done briefing you, so you have some idea of what the issues and what the projects look like, then we'll pick up a little bit on how we hope to communicate with the community and to work with you folks.
Okay.
Is that acceptable?
Sure.
Hello, my name is Kevin Garvey. I'm from Wright Pierce. Got a couple of figures to put up. I'm not sure. Can you guys see that? Is that big enough for you guys to generally see? Okay, I have half size I can hand you guys too. These are the same figures, just smaller scale.
Thank you.
So generally, there's about 7 project sites the district's working with. The sites are Pump Station 1, which is located right next to the district building at Old Main Street. Foster Street, which is the town's current source water system. Phase 1A septage, which is upgrades to the treatment plant. And then the big project is Main Street, which is generally from, again, North Main Street by the district building, all the way to Warren Street, and then from the circle down towards the water, and then down Green Street. The Holderness Well project, where the district's looking at a new source water, redundant source water, sorry. And then the Phase 3 pump station force main, which is located along Tenny Mountain Highway, behind the schools along the Baker River, and connects again down near the district building. That's generally figure 1. The next figure is figure 2, which is kind of a zoom in of the Main Street project, which that's kind of the big topic for tonight. And so generally tonight we wanted to get out in front of you guys, make sure the town was aware this was happening. We've done a couple of studies for the district and found that basically the water mains down Main Street are about 100 years old, in near failing condition potentially. So the district's hoping to replace them before there is a failure and an actual issue. Additionally, we've done some inspections on the Interceptor Sewer, which is the sewer for the entire city, entire town. We're going to replace that, again, because we've seen some corrosion issues on the inside of the pipe. In general, this is going to go out to construction, not this year, but the following year will be hopefully in construction basically next spring. And the hope is kind of have this conversation to start discussion with local residents, local business owners. As we carry on from here on out, the hope is to kind of individual meetings and kind of section off different sections of Main Street to focus in on potential issues for different groups. And the next big issue is, or next little issue is, on figure 3, the back side there. Some of our inspections that we had performed was back in, I believe, 2016, we performed smoke testing. So when smoke testing is, you basically take a blower fan, you put it on the sewer system, you add some inert liquid gas, and you pump it through to see where it comes out where there's leaks. And when we did that inspection, we found that there's about 8 catch basins on Main Street that appear to be cross-connected to the the sewer system. And as part of this project, we're hoping to redirect those. We're still getting in survey and some of the field investigation information, but that's a town-owned pipeline, so we're kind of hoping to work with you guys on how best to resolve that issue. And then similarly, from other discussions with the town, with Joe and Brian, we're aware that there's some stormwater capacity issues in the area too. And so where we're going to be doing work in Main Street and on Green Street, we're hoping that there's some kind of coordination we can help to alleviate those all at the same time. So it's disrupting the residents once and the business owners once, and not going through in 2020, 2022, 2024, repeat. So that's our hope. Don, do you want to put another?
In general, while there will be projects throughout the community as a whole, we're most concerned about communication on Main Street. It's obviously the central business core. And so the game plan is for us to meet with each business and each property owner to show them the plans, explain what we intend to do, and try to coordinate the construction sequencing so that it fits with everybody's, or the extent to which we can, with everybody's game plan. You can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs, and truly that's going to be the situation here. I'm hoping to be out of town that week. We've gone through this several times in other communities, and it is a challenge. What we found is communication makes it less painful. We have just launched a new website that has project management and communication tools in it, so people will be able to register online and will be able to send notices. It'll be interactive, so people will be able to look day to day to see where construction's happening, and if we run into problems, we'll be able to update and alert individual businesses in terms of the potential impacts. So we're doing our best in that regard. We hope to, in addition to the business community itself, we'll be dealing with the schools as an example to make sure that we're not disrupting bus routes. We'd like to get the police department, the fire department folks involved early on so that when we look at alternative routing, because some will be required at some point, that we have their involvement. We meet with our project team on a regular basis. We'd like to invite you all to send a representative. We'd like someone from police, fire, public works, so that we're planning up front in terms of what concerns they have and essentially how we can coordinate. The other point I'd like to touch on, if you don't have any questions about the project, is some of the stuff we've discovered along the way. We have, Joe and Brian have participated with us in terms of dealing with the rural development, which is the primary source of both the loan and the grant project. And what we've discovered is there are some potentially unique opportunities for the town as well in terms of funding. Plymouth is one of a handful of opportunity zone designated communities in the state. And this past year, rural development and economic development have gotten a supplemental funding for damage that was done by flooding in the past 2 years. And so there's a fairly substantial amount of money available to communities to deal with, for instance, your drainage situation. And we would like the opportunity, if possible, to work with you all in pursuing those. We visited with the planning board. The planning board invited us to visit a couple of weeks ago, and we visited with them, and a couple of the members have indicated a willingness to assist in that. But as luck would have it, we actually have the New Hampshire person, the New England person for EDA here, or for rural development here tonight, who could talk a little bit about one of the programs that we discovered. He happened to be in a project over in Conway, and he's headed to another project up north, and he agreed to stop by based upon the conversations that Brian and Joe and we had with him a couple of weeks ago. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to introduce Eric Law.
Sure.
From Rural Development.
Thanks, Don. This is a barn burner of a meeting here. You can see like this. So Eric Law, Community Program Director for the states of New Hampshire and Vermont. Passing through, but we do have an $18 million investment in water wastewater infrastructure with the Water Sewer Commission. A component of that with the town could be stormwater. So I'll keep my comments brief just to say that kind of like the stimulus money back in 2008, 2009, right? The ARRA money, American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, right? There's a new pot of money, not quite to that degree, called disaster relief grants that flow through two agencies, EDA, Economic Development Agency, and USDA Rural Development, which I work for. Quite a bit of money, right? So 600 plus million flowing through EDA, $150 million through us. And it can be used for any kind of infrastructure. And I was looking through your lists. It could be used for the solid waste district. It could be used for your police needs, your fire needs. It could also be used for your stormwater needs. So it's a pretty limited amount of counties that are eligible for this. So it's Grafton, right? Or no? Yeah. Okay, Grafton, okay. So you had a flood, lucky you. You always have floods, actually. I'm a former college student here. So you had a flood in the last 2 calendar years. That allows you to be eligible for this kind of money, okay? EDA can throw out big money. We can throw out maybe $250,000 to $500,000. If you compare that to your stormwater needs, your fire needs, your recycling needs, you should definitely call us. So what you got to do, though, and this is the lesson from ARRA, is you got to plan it. You got to have, it's got to be shovel ready and a voter approval for this, then you're off and running. If you don't do that, you're on the outside looking in. So I know I'm on camera, I can tell this to every town. So there's money, you got to go after it. You got to risk it, you got to go and get it. No promises, but if these needs are what I call necessary and inevitable, you're doing it anyway, right? You could wait for it and pay for a whole lot more with labor, inflation on labor and materials. Go ahead, do that. Doesn't make much Yankee economic sense to me. So, but that's your decision. So you look at the needs. There's a lot of need here. Stormwater, again, solid waste, fire needs, and this pot of money is available. Again, just 4 counties right now, Grafton amongst it. The thing about Plymouth is that looking at your MHI and population, you're more eligible for grants than other towns. This town, the Water Sewer Commission has used rural development many times because your eligibility for grant is much higher than, say, other parts of the state. So it's an opportunity, but I urge everybody to look at disaster relief grants, again, flowing through 2 agencies. And it's federal agencies. It's this year's version of a stimulus. Not quite like it was in 2008, 2009, but it's somewhat similar. Yep. So if you are going to use, so what happens is, right, you're tearing up Main Street. I think Don was talking about that. You're up the street. Ideally, you do water, wastewater, and stormwater. You can piecemeal it. You can do some of the stormwater improvements, or you can do a bigger piece now. Because if you don't, you're probably not going to rip up the street again. You're probably going to wait 20, 25 years. So it's almost like a generational opportunity. If you're going to plan for it, remember, get it shovel ready. We do have what's called a pre-development planning grant we can use for specifically the planning of the stormwater. The timing would be important because you want to do that planning, get the money for the actual construction to coincide with the $18 million water wastewater. So it's an opportunity I would at least look at because, again, it's only going to get more expensive later on.
Could you explain it, how it works?
Yep, so we have, I don't know what so the engineer would be able to do an engineering study to coincide with the water wastewater. Our grants are eligible up to $30,000. I don't know what the overall cost would be. You can apply basically any time. We do have 2 funding deadlines. One just passed December 13th. The next one would be April 17th. But you could apply to us anytime. So you get a draft engineering agreement with the engineer of your choice for stormwater improvements to coincide with the wastewater water project already going to happen. You submit it, let's say within a couple weeks, a month. We'll take a look at it and give you a pretty quick answer.
Joe?
I have a question for you.
Yep.
So with these opportunities you're presenting to us, is there a match to that?
Yep. So the town of Plymouth is what we call a 55% eligible community. So if it was $1 million project, again, solid waste, whatever it is, or a combination thereof, that means you'd be eligible up to $550,000 out of that $1 million project.
So my concern is that because they're a year out and they're well advanced in this, that the town is gonna struggle to try to
Catch up.
catch up and find that equal amount to make this happen.
Right, and that's where, that's where the bond, you'd have maybe a separate bond article, an article, for that match, that required match.
Okay.
And I don't know how generally you're going with this article, this 2.5, but you'd have to see.
Is including measures that would be eligible for this program in a bond, would that preclude the town from seeking funding through your program, or is that a good first step in seeking approval for the initial funding?
For the stormwater?
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be separate from this bond, the planning thereof, yep.
And that's just the planning for this point.
Correct, yep. But I wasn't prepared to come here and see solid waste work like that. You have a...
My other questions, I guess, were related to,
Yeah.
you had mentioned a few other things that would be eligible that were in the bond.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared for that. You definitely have a couple of things that are prime candidates for the community facility grant program. So there's over 40 loan and grant programs within rural development. One of them is called community facilities, which can touch basically everything that you got here. I would stay away from highway, any kind of operational work under all these headings. But if I look at the recycling center, the paving loading dock, the skid steer, glass crusher, the build pad, stormwater work tied around that would all be wrapped together, a pretty good project for its own grant submittal.
Nice.
As would the police. Yeah, you guys should get an application in. That's no doubt.
Ian?
He said the next application isn't due until April 17th.
April 17th was our second wave.
We should still go for these bonding items. Okay, so I just don't want people to think that, oh, no, we can take them out of the bond and lower the bond. It's not what he's saying. We still have to come up with 45% of the map. Right?
Exactly,
So
exactly. We could use the bond money
Right.
to qualify for the other money from them.
I want people to get excited and think they can take it out of here. We still have to come up with a match.
Yeah. And just so I'm clear, is that the planning grant for the stormwater work, you can apply anytime. Okay, that, I want to be on record there. A grant for any one of these subheadings, we'll just pick on the solid waste district. That can come in prior to April 17th.
Okay.
Gives you a best shot at grant.
All right. Any other?
Just in the interest of, once again, reducing the amount of time the thing needs to be opened or how many times it needs to be reopened, what about any grant money for the impacted businesses and their 110-year-old infrastructure that needs to connect to the brand new infrastructure? Is there money that can go to non-municipal or non-district?
So any private nonprofit who has work is actually eligible for this community facility program at USDA Rural Development. But you definitely gave me a segue. So I don't work for EDA, right? A whole different agency, but they have more money than us. I was in meetings with EDA and Don and Jason here. They might be able to throw sizable grant money at the stormwater work. I'm not going to say anything on behalf of them. No, I know, but you gave me.
Stormwater is important, and we need to move forward on that and be prepared for it because, like I said, if you read the thing, it says 8 storm drains that are currently attached to the wastewater that need to be separated, and obviously that is town responsibility as far as I believe.
Yep.
So we need to be prepared for that anyway. But I was just. Like I said, all of those buildings that are in the impact zone, my guess is that a lot of them have severely dated infrastructure.
So private nonprofits dealing
I don't know that we're
any
dealing
asset class
Right.
would be eligible. Yep. Yep.
Any questions from the board? Mike?
So, right now, the stormwater drainage is not the responsibility of the town. It is, right now, the responsibility of the water and sewer district.
No, that's not what they said. The
That
town
we-
owns
There
it.
there are 8 catch basins that drain into the sewer system?
So that's what I'm talking about. Those 8 in the proposed project area
Yes.
is part of the water and sewer. It is not hooked up to the water and sewer?
It drains in, it goes into your drainage, but your drain, it doesn't it goes into a catch basin, one of our catch basins, into our sewer.
Yes.
Yep. So essentially, it's roof drains in downtown
Right.
that's
Any of the-
collected.
So it's basically combines, your
It's a color
stormwater
combine.
is combined into the sewer.
Right.
It's not just roof drains, it's a really weepy hillside, that South Main
Yep.
Street. I mean, it's.
Always been, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So does that mean that the town is responsible for those drains, not water and sewer?
The town's responsible for the stormwater drainage system. Part of the requirement for us is to try to remove stormwater, which is clean water essentially, and try to get it out of the sewer.
So
And
if you run into a town catch basin while you're doing that, how do you figure out who pays for it and how that gets resolved?
We won't run into them because I mean, the issue for us simply is there's a small area.
Right.
Where we can, I'm not sure it's good. I'm not sure we can help showing the picture of the manhole, but essentially what happens is we could divert it, we could reconnect and divert it into your drainage system, except that your drainage system is overmaxed. So our choice, hopefully, we can find some grant money to solve the drainage problem. If we can't, we have to get a waiver to continue to accept drain water, the stormwater, into the sewer system until such time as the town is ready to receive it.
Now, if that failed, that means the town would have to go back in and repair.
Yeah, but not the
drain,
sewer. Not the sewer,
right,
just
I mean,
just the drainage.
The drains. It would, and we'd have to, if you've already done your work, we'd have to go back in and dig up to fix
Small,
that.
it's a relatively small area, but yes.
Is it estimate costs on something like that?
I can't. I mean, I can
Right,
only
that-
guess it would.
okay.
I mean, the advantage, hopefully, of us working together is that we can fix everything that needs to be fixed once. So we can
Right,
disrupt Main Street once. We've already had meetings with DOT because they have some issues and challenges, including concrete in the center lanes of the road. They've agreed to play nice. They've agreed, they were intending to pave this coming year, and they've agreed to hold off and do that as part of our project. And so part of the challenge, obviously, is repairing the drainage system. You referred to EDA. We had a meeting a few weeks ago with EDA, and we were talking about the potential, at least, for a $2.5 million grant, which is enough to solve the drainage problems in all of the downtown. And he indicated that that could be an 80-20, 80% grant, 20% local. And so one of the things on my list here tonight is to request that you all consider kind of working with us, some sort of a working group with us. There was at least 2 members of the planning board indicated that they would be willing to try and help. We understand, but we're all working with not enough people. But if we kind of put our heads together and work collaboratively, it's entirely possible that we can leverage some of what we're doing. But beyond that, there are other opportunities, as you've heard. I mean, there's the Northern Borders Organization has money, not necessarily for water and sewer, but the designation for an opportunity zone gives you what I characterize as bonus points, because there's only like 17 opportunity zones in the state of New Hampshire. So when you combine that with this, the special funding that EDA and rural development is getting just for Grafton County, I mean, we wind up being Plymouth winds up being one of 17 with opportunity zone designation, and one of a very small number of communities in Grafton County that may have the capacity and the opportunity to apply. So we wind up with really kind of an interesting position within a fairly narrow window, because we've got about 40 months to get our work done.
Why can't the municipality of the water and sewer apply for that grant? You're saying the town municipality would have a better chance, you're saying, than what you would?
Yeah, we can't apply on your behalf, and it's not our system. The drainage system is not our system.
Yeah, the federal agency, no matter the federal agency, they're gonna want you, whoever owns and operates whatever that infrastructure is would be the applicant.
So if I could, I want the people listening and watching to realize what's being discussed here is a lot deeper. Something that's been ongoing with the community, the select board, in the water sewer. It's something that we can get ironed out, I hope, at some point. And but the town doesn't have a whole lot of money to work with, and we've had a select board, past select board member here who has, before I was on the board, 4.25 years ago or so, posed the question, well, who does own the drainage? Who is responsible for it? I'm not talking about the entire town, I'm talking about the 8 or so in that portion of the town. And there was nothing that stated that the town would be responsible for repairs for that system because it goes into the water and sewer system. And Plymouth is not the only community, as I understand, that has some of the drainage going into water and sewer. And the elementary school, 15 or so years back, was involved with a state group that wanted to see more of the drainage be treated before it just is released into the rivers. And the elementary school did an analysis of where was the stormwater going throughout the town. And this, because there was a whole program to try and get it part of the water and sewer, to have it treated first. Because there's a lot of salt, there's a lot of things in a community, in a village versus, just a suburb somewhere. So I do want the public to realize it's something that the two boards are going to be talking about. But there might be two different viewpoints of some of the answers to some of the questions.
In that working group, yeah.
More than one answer that might have been stated.
But don't we need a resolution of that so we can go forward in case there's a problem? And don't we need it very quickly?
Yeah, we're working on that right now. We actually, in the work session tonight, we're going to propose with Dawn and the Water District, if possible, next Tuesday, the 21st, if we could have a board-to-board meeting and go over all this stuff. Because I know it's been back and forth, and I think we just need to sit down, work together, and get it resolved if you guys are available. Or what we would be open to is a special meeting to discuss all this, because again, with the money available, you and I, Don, we've got going, and I stepped out a little bit out of my authority, and so having to bring it back to the board kind of put some brakes on things right now. So what we'd like to be able to do is have both boards meet and get this discussed and get it done and get it rolling. Because we have to.
It's a good time to exhaust that topic you're bringing up in order to potentially get advantageous grant things.
Yeah, and we knew this was coming up tonight, and like I say, in the work session, we wanted to get everybody together and get everything squared away. Here's where we're going. Here's what we can do. Here's what's available. And like I say, the funding and stuff is out there. It's finding the matching funds, but again, like you said, some of the projects we have, we could qualify under that and use some of those funds for matching funds on those projects.
Depends on how general you are on the article, yeah.
Yeah.
Would the public be invited to that meeting?
It's gonna be
Maybe not to talk,
It's gonna be a
but
public
or
meeting, but we don't have to televise it.
Yeah, we could. The board.
Yes, yeah.
Just give us the information you want us
There's no
to
basis for not having a public.
intelligently.
Okay, all right.
Do you have a question? Would
Yeah.
the grant funding be able to, being that it's stormwater, be able to be applicable to the work on Russell? Which is all storm sewer, which floods my properties every single time we get more than 3/4 of an inch of rain? Right.
Yes, but not quickly.
terms of this summer project, supposedly.
So Russell Street is slated to go out to bid right after town meeting. And that money's pretty much already allocated and in forward motion. So we'd be better presented by trying to deal with Main Street in the downhill side because that's the more concentrated area that we need to work on. It would better suit the public.
And hopefully, some of the Russell Street work will alleviate a little bit of the Main Street problem, in theory.
Yes.
Because that's where a lot of that water is coming
It's
from.
gonna work in both our favors.
But I just want to, obviously, this project involves the town, and I want to make it clear, are we responsible for, obviously, potentially the catch basins and stormwater? We're responsible, I believe the sidewalks are town responsibility, or would that be,
With any sidewalks that come out as part of our project, are built into our budget.
Would go back, okay.
So we replace.
And then the state of New Hampshire, obviously, is who is responsible for the road and the paving, and then all the
Yep.
private businesses and homes along the way are all, so you got
Okay.
a lot of people to
So-
work with.
And that's the thing with stormwater, right? Is you want to ideally do it comprehensively, because if you fix an uphill problem for one person, one landowner, who's down gradient from that? Right? Another landowner, another property owner, right? So that's why the town or the district or in cohort, right, works to come up with a comprehensive answer to.
Yeah, the plan, the way you would plan it is to start at the river, which is the outflow, and go back up the hill, so that you're sure that you've got capacity, if you fix a problem uphill, that you've got enough room in the pipe to get it to the river.
Okay. So, if you guys are available, or if you, again, want to
We'll have
get back with us.
We'll have to get back to you.
Yep,
in terms of
get back
schedule.
and, any night, I think we have a few conflicts on a couple of nights, but any other night, and then we'll sit down and get all this stuff taken care of. Have the public there and take care of it.
One more question?
One more.
The financial impacts for those within inside the water district and the proposed, essentially creating false meters in businesses such as ours, which will increase our water bills. Tiered pricing system.
Yeah,
Just-
well, we have a water meeting tomorrow night, right? 5:30,
Yes.
Water District, so.
Yeah, our budget hearings tomorrow night.
While you got a captive audience here, though, it might be good to.
So I'm not sure I understand the question. Well, no, but we can, I don't understand what you meant by false.
I'm just looking for some, for us, it's an increase, right? It's, I've done some, with Jason the other day, we sat down and did a little bit, but, we're just looking for other people in the room to know how much of a burden it is gonna put on the local business. I represent 26 buildings, Nick's got his set, Jim's got his set, of the downtown village, a vast majority of them are folks like myself who are managing, and we just want to know how that's impacting.
We would just like you to address your new tiered pricing structure a little bit for the crowd that's here tonight and the select board.
It's far too complicated to get into. I don't have any handouts. It's got to
An
go into.
overview, similar to what you talked about at the planning board. would probably be
Right,
good.
and unfortunately, sorry, Judy DeLeo, Chair of Water and Sewer, this is a Water and Sewer District question,
Right.
and we're at a town select
Yeah.
board meeting. So anything having to do with Water and Sewer Districts, we invite you, please come. It's usually just, 4 of us around the table.
I'm aware.
We like company, we like questions, we want to answer them, we're not keeping anything secret, but nobody tends to visit us.
But
So,
you also have to do the old right to know, and if it's not a publicly noticed meeting, you actually can't talk about it.
yeah, and all of our, we actually are a publicly noticed meeting because all 3 of the selectmen are here. I mean, commissioners are here. We did vote to go into a public meeting and it is posted. But we are in town hall talking town hall business, so we'd rather talk water and sewer business at a water and sewer district meeting. And I'm
No,
not
you
putting
didn't.
you off, I'm just,
That's fair enough. It was addressed at the planning board meeting 2 weeks ago. I just figured it could be addressed in front of a larger crowd. I apologize.
No problem. I mean, this is good to get out, but again, the hearing wasn't for that, and they did a presentation. It brought up some questions that we can get. And like I say, we've put the invitation out that we're ready for a special meeting, whatever night is available for your board, to meet and get this all finalized and start going in one direction. All right?
can I have a quick final word?
All right.
Thank you.
One
I
final
have my notes, so I won't take too
Okay.
much time. One of the things I wanted to mention was that, the Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District has been really great about getting money. We've kind of gone after every grant we can possibly get, and we've got 45% funding on the project that we're doing through rural development, and Eric Law helping us and Wright Pierce helping us get this funding. So the bottom line is, for Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District, we really would like to work together with the selectmen in order to help the town and district customers, because we do overlap, get as much bang for all of our bucks, because we are taxpayers as well, and move forward to address the downtown drainage issues while the district advances the water and sewer projects that are essential to the functioning of the sewer and water systems and the town's stormwater infrastructure. If we can help you in any way to pursue grant money for addressing the stormwater system and any other community and economic development initiative, we would be happy to do so. Like I said, we've already been really successful. We know what buttons to push and whose ears to grab. And we would love to work together so we can leverage our efforts and potentially save the town a huge chunk of money in the long run. As you heard Eric say, there's bucks out there and we ought to grab it. And this is coming from a town taxpayer as well. I'd like to save some money if I can.
Wouldn't we all?
I know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thanks, Don. And like I say, get back with the town hall, and we're ready to meet, sit down, and get this thing resolved and moving. All right. Thank you. All right. Whew. Do we have any public comments on anything discussed tonight?
I just had a quick question when, Joanne Magnan.
Could you give your name and...
Joanne Magnan, I live in Plymouth. I had a question, Magnan.
All right.
I have a question on just when you do set up a date to meet with Don Jutton, and if the public can be just in attendance, even if not part of the discussion, how could we find out about that date? Because it should be happening pretty soon.
It'll be on the
It has to
town
be on the website, yeah.
website.
Okay.
And you can call in Monday of next week, and we would probably have a date too.
All right.
We'll close Monday, and we open
That's right,
Tuesday.
okay. So hopefully maybe we can hear something by Friday, but it would be on the town bulletin board, so. All right.
Thank you.
No other questions? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate your input.
No other business?
Such a better meeting when so many people.
Okay. We have a motion.
Committees?
Well, I think we
Committee
end.
reports.
I think everybody thinks we're over.
Yeah.
What are we moving?
Time to go?
We don't.
We have committees, reports.
Oh, we haven't adjourned yet.
I move that we adjourn tonight's meeting.
Just,
Yeah, I think
We
we
need a motion.
I move that we adjourn tonight's
Okay,
meeting.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We don't care about the committee reports.
We're done.
What's funny is I had my committee report
did.
ready. I even got a
Bill did.